Hey everybody, it's Monday at 12 o'clock, time for a Facebook Live. And this is only seen by people that are watching a replay because nobody's ever here when you first start. So if you're watching the replay, give me a what's up comment, little hello, type the word replay so I know you didn't catch it on the live. Also, if you're here watching and you're one of my clients, it would be fun if you just let us know in the comment thread. Maybe a little circle for Creator Circle so people start to get to know each other because not everybody's in the same Creator Circle group, or if you're in creating school, let us know. But today I just want to share my life. That's what Mondays are about, with the hopes that it helps us to connect a little bit more. Obviously, you connecting with me because I'm not listening to you at this point. I look forward to that opportunity, but I've also I get now that just sharing about how I do what I do, how I do my life, has some value in it because my life is central to my work. And so I'm excited to share with you and be in conversation with you. So whoever's joining in, say what's up. I see there's a person, but I don't know how to see who it is in the group. How do I do that in the app? Who is that watching? How do I do this? My viewers. You don't have any viewers yet. Try sharing your broadcast to friends or groups. Oh, okay. How about I'll just wait patiently. So anyway, sorry for the time I'm taking to get things started here, but I've got some notes what I want to share about my life today. I want to share about, this week I'm on my own with my son, Asher. He's, not here right now. He's out with his nanny. They're at the Natural History Museum, checking out dinosaurs, which he loves. But I got him on my own this week, so it's another chance for me to be practicing being a single parent. Not practicing in case that ever happens. I don't plan on hopefully ever being. Hopefully I die before my wife and I'm with her until then. But she's away for a week at a time here and there for her work. And right now she's away and I'm here. And how am I going to fit everything that I like to do into my life when I'm taking care of my son all the time? That's an interesting question, I think, for a lot of parents, especially single parents. How do you do all the stuff you want to do? It can feel impossible and overwhelming. And we talked about this in creating school last week in the class, where I shared about how I manage this, because the problem with that as a reason for not doing the stuff you really want to do is it's a really convincingly good one, and a lot of people out there in the world will support that because the circumstances are challenging, but I make it work. So what have I been up to? Well, if you've watched my Instagram feed, you saw me exercising with my son yesterday. So he didn't know how to do sit-ups, and I wanted to do sit-ups. I'm doing 100 sit-ups a day this month. So I taught him how to do sit-ups. It's so funny. I didn't know that a 3-year-old can't do a sit-up. I mean, he had to use his arms to get up, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. Didn't know that. When do you learn how to do it? Like, when you're strong enough to do a sit-up? I guess that comes in time. But also I wanted to go for a run, but my son can't really run. He can't run. Maybe he can run a mile. I don't know. We did a half mile yesterday around the block. So how am I going to make a half a mile exercise for myself? Well, first of all, barefoot I always do, but let's add a weight vest. So I put all the weights in my weight vest and added 40 pounds of weight to the run. So, okay, I'm only running half a mile, but I'm doing it barefoot and with 40 pounds on. So why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because, just to give you a sense of what I'm up to in life, but also because I want to share not the content and not the solution, but the way of thinking that has being alone with my kid not an obstacle to the things that I want to do. And what is that way? How is being alone with my son not an obstacle to the things I want to do? It's not an obstacle, very simply, because I decide that it will not be an obstacle. And I know that sounds really simple, but it's actually really powerful and not easy. It's not easy to decide that no matter what, this won't be an obstacle, because we so want circumstances to be an obstacle. Because when circumstances are an obstacle, we don't have to be creative. We don't have to acknowledge our power. We don't have to acknowledge our responsibility that feels burdensome and overwhelming. But when I decide that my circumstances are not going to be an obstacle, and I'm at peace with that. It's not like, therefore I have to figure something out. It's like, no, I'm going to figure out a way. And there's a certainty, there's a lightness, and I bring creativity to bear on it. And I find it to be fun. So how are we doing it also besides exercise? In the kitchen. So for me, 2020 is the year of cooking. I've never really cooked, and I've always thought of myself not as a chef. But this year I'm teaching myself how to cook. And so my wife's away for a week, and so I don't even have the space to be alone to learn how to cook. So how am I going to learn to cook with my son? Well, I'm just going to cook with him, and I'm going to involve him in everything. Otherwise, he'd be pulling at my leg and asking me for attention every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes. Okay, so how do I involve a 3-year-old in cooking? Well, my wife got him this kid's knife, which is great, so I can have him chop. But what if he's not chopping them appropriately? Well, he doesn't have to know that those vegetables are going to be used or not. So I was just having him chop 2 mushrooms up. Chop them however you want. That's not the primary ingredient in the dish. So he's engaged in his experiences that he's helping out. And at the same time, I can still create the outcome that I want. And then also, how could I have my son, he wants to stir the stuff in the frying pan, but the thing's 1,000 degrees. If he touches it, he's going to burn his hand. So how do I do that? Well, he wants to stir, but I don't want him too close to touch it. So how about I stir and you hold my elbow and you guide my arm? And so I'm putting my hand with the thing in the pot. He's moving my arm around. And so again, this is not about the solution. It's about, these are examples of what I was talking about in the creating school, in the class, about like, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you can bring creativity to bear on any situation, you will find a solution. And so I'm not willing to ever accept the idea that there's not time for something, because we have the time that we have, and whatever seems like an obstacle can actually be either denied, like I'm not going to deal with that, or it can be integrated into the solution. And that's typically how I approach things. How can I take these 2 things that seem to be in conflict and integrate them and have them be one thing? How can I take 2 things and integrate them and have them be one thing? So I didn't have the time with myself this morning to speak who I am and to remind myself of who I am. But I do have my Alexa, Echo Dot, with the text stored in it. So Alexa knows who I am. And so while I'm folding the laundry and hanging out with my son, I can say, Alexa, who am I? And Alexa reminds me of who I am, and I can listen to that, and I can bring all the things that I normally want to do into my life in a way where they're not getting in the way and I'm not conflicted. So I see somebody's joined up. I don't know how to see who that is here in this, but thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Geez, I got to use the computer next time. I don't know what's going on here with, there's no like conversation or anything in the app. Anyways, so that's some insight into how I'm kind of integrating my life into the stuff that I do all the time for myself when my wife's away. I'm teaching my son to read right now, which is exciting because if you know me, you know I love language. And so I'm actually enjoying the process of figuring out how to teach him how to read, how to create the birth of this understanding of language and how it represents reality. And it's like I'm feels like I'm teaching my son how to lie. I'm teaching him how to use language in a way that actually breaks up the continuity of the wholeness of the universe into these little categorical segments of concepts and meanings. And I'm teaching him how to separate, which is the challenge that all adults are trying to undo themselves from. So I was saying to somebody recently, that's our job as parents, is to construct an illusion inside of our kids' minds that
I didn't catch
everything.
that.
Siri, I'm not talking to you. To construct an illusion inside of our kids' minds that they're separate from the universe, and to break everything up, and then they can spend the rest of their life trying to reunite with wholeness. So, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's kind of true, actually. That's what we do as parents. So another thing I've been up to recently is fasting, which is a new thing for me. I've done like juice fast in the past, but never really pushed the boundaries of intermittent fasting on a regular basis. So I've been fasting 16 to 18 hours every day, which basically means I'm not eating breakfast and I'm eating lunch late and I'm finishing dinner early. So I eat between 6 and 8 hours in a day. And what the craziest thing that's happened is my heart rate has dropped. My resting heart rate's dropped by like 5 beats per minute. It's like 48 beats per minute at night now when I'm sleeping. Which basically, I don't think my heart's gotten stronger. It basically is evidence to me that my heart doesn't have to work as hard, which means my body's not requiring as much energy for digestion and those things. So my sleep's been deeper and better. And while I'm losing body fat pretty rapidly, which I didn't really need to do or want to do, but I basically am doing fasting for the longevity benefits. I've been reading about autophagy, I think is the term. After a certain number of hours, this is really interesting, your body, because it's not digesting food anymore, it starts to allocate energy instead of to digestion to cellular regeneration. And that starts with the killing off of cells that are old and unhealthy. So your body starts to exterminate cells that aren't healthy anymore. And then once you start eating food, that system shuts down and it starts to focus its energy on digesting again. And so the theory is, I was in some longevity stuff I've been watching on YouTube, this researcher at the University of California, Southern California, was that actually a normal state for a living thing is to be in a state of starvation. Every living thing in the planet basically lives most of the time hungry, and then it gets some food for a little while, digests it, and then it lives hungry again, or in starvation, and a lack of food, we should say, not starvation necessarily, lack of food in its system, so not in the state of digesting. But thus, in our modern life now as humans, we've always got food in our belly. We're always eating and digesting. We don't really give the system a break. And it's when we're not eating and digesting that our body is doing its normal janitorial work of cleaning out dead cells and recreating new ones. And so maybe one of the reasons for modern diseases is because our bellies are always full and our bodies can't do its job of cleaning out old dead cells and building up new ones, which it normally did in the majority of the time when we weren't fed and busy digesting. And so it's not like fasting is some unnatural thing. Basically, you could look at it as a return to a more natural state when our bellies aren't full all the time. And if you start looking into the science of it and the research they're doing, there's lots and lots of studies that are showing how much people's blood can improve in health and their organs can improve in health. I mean, here's another cool way of thinking about fasting is like when a person fasts for like 40 days, and they've done studies on people that have done this, everything in their body basically shrivels up and shrinks, and it's like they're dying essentially because their body is eating itself. Their heart, their lungs, everything, all the organs shrink to about half the size they used to be. But then when they start eating again, all of their organs come back to their original size. So they look the same. They look a bit younger than they did before, but they look about the same size as they used to before they fasted for 40 days. But what's interesting is that their organs now have rebuilt themselves to the original size they were a couple months ago, but now they're brand new because the organs get eaten from the unhealthy cells that make up that organ first, and then they get rebuilt with stem cells, which are like perfect cells. And so it's almost like they've gone through the process of being born again. At least 50% of their body is renewed from scratch. And so that's basically what's got me really excited, the idea of creating new and healthy vibrant cells in my body, putting me at lower risk for cancer, lower risk for autoimmune conditions, healing the gut. And so my motivation around fasting is that vitality and longevity. So last thing I wanted to share, if you're still here hanging out, I appreciate you. You may have noticed that I've been using the term philosopher in my email footer in different places. It's like for years, for my whole life, I thought I'm a philosopher, but it felt like I couldn't say that. You can't say that. Well, you didn't go to school for philosophy, first of all, but you can't even really say that because who's a philosopher besides the famous people in the books? But the truth is, I actually feel like that's my purpose in life, is to actually philosophize, is to actually think about life and reality and come up with new ways of seeing and articulating and experiencing reality. Now, for me, philosophy is not the pursuit of some absolute truth. It's not an academic pursuit for a concept that this is the truth, this is right. I mean, that's what it looks like philosophy is from the outside. I didn't study philosophy at university, but it looks like that's what everybody's up to. We're trying to argue about what's true. for me, philosophy and philosophizing is about creating a conceptualization of reality that creates the most fulfillment, that creates the most bliss, peace, ease, love, power, results. So I am very much an active and pragmatic philosopher. That would be the primary orientation for me in my life. And so if somebody says, what do you do now? I've been answering that. I'm a philosopher, which is, it feels like the most true answer I've ever had. And when I finally said to myself, I'm a philosopher, it felt like, I can relax now. It's okay. It's like cat's out of the bag. It feels good. It feels true. It feels honest. And so thank you for being here with my weekly Facebook Live. I'll see you guys next Monday. If you're not already a member of Creating School and you're interested in learning how to create yourself and your world, how to create more peace, more prosperity, go to creating.school and join us. Our next class is in a couple weeks. You can see all the other recent classes, including the one I was just talking about, in the archive there as soon as you join up. I'll talk to you guys soon. Much love. Bye for now.